Good evening, guys. Hope you can hear me okay. Sorry to keep you waiting. I was just making sure that I had all my ducks in order and everything hunky-dory. When I do these lives, I like to try and put out as much information as I possibly can in the time that I've got. So sometimes that's why I may leave you waiting for 5 minutes. I do apologise. Like I said, I just want to make sure that I've got everything in check. So I hope everyone's had a great weekend. Thank you for being here. Hi, Kimberly. Hi, True Helper. Hi, Firefly. They will be looking after you today in the chat. As you know, if you can just be adult, if you can just not be disrespectful to people, then we shouldn't really have a problem with you in the chat. But if you start trying to cause trouble or intentionally disrespectful or horrible, then you'll probably find yourself getting kicked out. But we're a pretty lenient bunch. We do give people freedom to express their opinion as long as they're not hurting other people unnecessarily. Hi, Irish Eyes, Irish Spirit Eyes. That's a new name. Hi, BZ Mama. BZ Mama, I believe that are you helping in the search on next weekend? I think I've seen you mention that. I know you've been quite active in searching for Suzanne. Hi, Kelly. Yes, I am. Fantastic. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. There's someone in the community is doing that, isn't it? There's a couple of people actually that have mentioned to me that they're going to be helping. Can't remember the name of the other one, but no, that's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I thought, I think it's very important that we continue to put these faces out there and these names out there. Obviously, Suzanne Morphew stories picked up a hell of a lot of traction. It's getting a massive public interest, and hopefully Cassandra's case won't be around for much longer. Hopefully she's going to be found, obviously, but I think it's important that all of these cases need to be pushed out into the forefront, don't they? So hopefully we can put out as much information as we can tonight. And you never know, it might catch someone's eye, it might jog someone's memory, and it might ultimately help define these beautiful women, these poor women that have just seemingly disappeared off the face of the earth. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it? Okay, so I'm going to start with Cassandra. So it's Cassandra Cantrell, and somebody on Facebook put together this really great new kind of missing poster. So I'm going to use that just to run over things again. So as I say, it's Cassandra Cantrell. She's missing from Parkland, Tacoma in Washington. She's 33 years old and she is 3 months pregnant. And there's a little bit of a story around that, which I'll come to in a moment. She was last seen 25th of August, 8:45 a.m., seen by her mother. She lives in the Parkland neighborhood. Her car was picked up by a neighbor's doorbell camera when she left the property. She's got a white Mazda. I'll be showing you pictures of that in a minute. Her mother had a brief sort of conversation with her before she left, sort of saying the I loves yous and all that kind of thing. One thing that her mother noted was that she had kind of got dressed up. So, she'd taken a bit of time. It wasn't as if she was popping out to get groceries or just popping down the road. She had took some time to get ready as if she was going to meet somebody. Also, there are all documents relating to the proof of her pregnancy, as I understand, also missing. So Cassandra is from Parkland, Washington. Parkland's just south of Tacoma. Now, her family, her kind of mum, brother, believe that strongly that she went to see her ex-boyfriend that morning in order to, possibly show him the pregnancy papers. The following day, on the Wednesday, after the day that she went missing, she had an ultrasound appointment, her first ultrasound appointment. This was her first pregnancy. She was extremely excited about being pregnant. She had names for if it was a girl or a boy. The ex-boyfriend she was with many years ago when she was younger, they then met up again some years later, kind of became friends. A one-time incident back earlier this year resulted in her becoming pregnant. So the ex-boyfriend is the father. Now the ex-boyfriend, they must have questioned him because he's absolutely going to be suspect number one. He's got a new living girlfriend. The authorities have done a complete search on his house, as I understand, with forensics and everything. Don't know the results of that yet, but I can't name him because obviously he's not been named officially by law enforcement, so not putting his name out there. But he is kind of suspect number one. Now I thought up until today that he had kind of disappeared, which he had. He disappeared off the radar, apparently, which just only adds, obviously, to the fact that he might be guilty of something. But I saw today on the official Facebook group, the Cassandra Cantrell Facebook group, that somebody's actually seen him. Somebody has actually seen him around in the neighbourhood. And he looks normal. Not hiding faces. I'm taking this from Facebook, just acting like every other person around them. Don't seem like they're trying to stay under the radar, just going about their business. So, I don't know whether or not he's got his truck back because they took his truck as well. So, I don't know. He's the only real kind of unofficial person of interest, if you like. But as of yet, it doesn't look like they've arrested him or anything like that. So, it will be interesting to follow developments on that. Now they have found her vehicle. Her vehicle was found 3 days later. Now this is two key bits of information, right? So the place where her vehicle was found, it was very near the Tacoma Dome. It was in the 200 block of East 25th Street. But key bits of information is it was only about 1.5 miles from the ex-boyfriend's house, and also it was only 4 or 5 blocks away, as I understand, from where he worked. So, all these things have obviously kind of pointed to him. But as I understand at the moment, nobody's under arrest. As I say, they have searched the ex-boyfriend's house. That's as far as I know. Obviously, Cassandra is still missing. I'll just read this off here. So the SWAT search was on August 31st. Police and SWAT served a search warrant for a home on South K Street in Tacoma that belongs to the ex-boyfriend, longtime friend, and father of Cassandra's unborn child. He and the other residents went to another location while police guarded the home overnight. In the morning, FBI forensics teams were brought in to assist with the search of the home for evidence. The ex-boyfriend's truck was taken by police for processing. At this time, he is a person of interest to the police, but has not been named a suspect or arrested. Now, they are also treating this investigation as a homicide. So they are already suspecting foul play. So I'm just going to bring up some images of Cassandra's vehicle because they're just interested to know if anybody saw her car. Obviously, when it was traveling, obviously it had to get from her house to where it was found. Now, when it was found with the keys inside. It was just parked up on the street. It was near the Highway 705 overpass. As I say, on 25th Street East in Tacoma. Keys were inside. Car wasn't broken into, anything like that. Why is it just left on the side of the street like that? And why is it so near to where the ex-boyfriend works? That's extremely worrying to me, that it's that close to where he worked and not too far from his house. I mean, what do you guys feel about that? That seems extremely suspicious to me. Plus, the ex-boyfriend is the father of the baby. We don't know for certain whether he knew or not about the baby. We don't know whether his current girlfriend knew about the baby. Yeah, so Nicole said, I'm sure there's traffic cameras somewhere. That's what they're looking for. So the family are desperate for anybody, with cameras, especially businesses in that area that may have cameras that may have picked that vehicle up. Because obviously they want to know who was in that vehicle, who was driving that vehicle, and who was in that vehicle when it was left there. Because obviously that's going to be a massive piece of the puzzle, isn't it? Or even en route, anywhere on route traffic light cameras. Yeah, I mean that I would hope that they are looking at everything. I would hope they're looking at everything. Where was cat found? Near car. Sorry, I don't know what you mean. Now, technology-wise, they haven't found Cassandra's phone, but they have got position of its last ping. So I'm just gonna show you another couple of images of the vehicle. Obviously, just for anyone here or anyone watches this after. License plate was AXV1638. It's a Mazda 3 white sedan. And we just have an image there of the back of the car. That it's extremely strange. According to Missing Flyer, it says cat found a couple of days after she went missing. Yeah, I think they mean the car. There was no cat. There was no cat involved. Just to help you guys out, just with like a point of reference, I did put together a map just to show you, just so you got an idea, a visual idea. So Cassandra's home at the bottom, you can see there how close the baby's father's home is to where her vehicle was found. I don't know exactly where he worked. Well, I'm certainly not even going to name where he worked if I did. And that is where her phone last pinged. So her phone, just north of there's a place called Vashon Island, and her phone pinged off the south tower of that island. Now they believe that ping of her phone came from somewhere in Point Defiance Park. A couple of you members have mentioned about Point Defiance Park that you're familiar with that area. But now they have done quite a few searches there. They did last weekend. I know they have this weekend. Yeah, Vashon Island is a little place. Yeah, it's like a small island. Obviously being called Vashon Island, but that's me stating the obvious. But yeah, there's a cell tower on the south of that island, and the ping was picked up obviously on that side of the tower about whatever radius they predict. But that's where they reckon. Whether it was thrown in the water, that's obviously a possibility. But they haven't found. There's been no sign of the phone. Now I did ask Cassandra's brother if they knew whether the phone had just run out of battery or whether it was powered off. And he said, I'm pretty sure they don't think it ran out of battery. It was definitely either powered off or, it's been thrown somewhere in the water or something like that. So it's not just like it's run out of battery. I think that must kind of give some kind of message on the logs or whatever. I guess they know if it's just run out of battery. So they're just saying if anyone knows anything, just contact the Pierce County Sheriff's Office or obviously call 911. But I'll be putting the contact numbers underneath the video anyway for the tip line and what have you. But I'm surprised that I've heard that the boyfriend is just walking around at the moment, because how suspicious does that all seem? She's pregnant with her ex-boyfriend. She possibly has gone to see him. Cassandra disappears. He then disappears. Her car's found near to where he lives. It's also near to where he works, in an area that she would never go. Yeah, it just reeks of suspicion, doesn't it? But presumably, I mean, they must have questioned him. They must have interrogated this guy. Must have done. They all used to know each other. They all used to be part of her. So her ex-boyfriend and his current girlfriend, they all used to be part of like a theatre group together, and they all sort of go back years. They know each other from a long time ago, and the ex-boyfriend split with Cassandra for this girl that he's currently living with. So there's some very interesting dynamics going on there. It's that's all a bit very suspicious. But as I say, there's nothing as yet. Typically, as we've found with these cases, law enforcement aren't really releasing much information at the moment. That's kind of as much as we know. So let's just hope there's something soon. It just absolutely heartbreaking for her mum. Her poor mum's of course distraught, and her brother desperately trying to do all they can to try and find some bit of information. There isn't if you want to join, there is an official Facebook group. It's called Where is Cassandra Cantrell discussion group. It's on Facebook. If you want to look, if you want to try and find out everything that's going on, everything up to date. Oh, thank you, Kimberly. Everything up to date with the case and with developments on Cassandra, then please join that group, and obviously you can keep up to date with that. Yeah, so JD's raised a good point. Maybe he didn't want his current girlfriend to know about the pregnancy if she didn't know about it. Who knows? Who knows? That's the thing. But her mother, definitely said she was going somewhere to see somebody that morning. And her brother said that the only person she would normally go to see that time of morning would be her ex-boyfriend, who is now her friend. So that all seems extremely suspicious. If I hear anything further about this, then I'll let you guys know. I'm keeping a close eye on what's going on with that. As I say, it was August 25th that she went missing, so we're now, coming up to 3 weeks. So obviously the longer time goes on, it gets more and more worrying, doesn't it? Of course, when somebody's missing. So yeah, friends with benefits, baby on the way. Yeah, it just reeks of suspicion, doesn't it? So, like I say, I'll let you guys know. Let you guys know on that one. So, of course, the other missing woman that's all over the world at the moment, it seems, is Suzanne Morphew. Of course, there's going to be a big search. I think it's next weekend. It's the 24th. I think that's right. And there's a huge search been organised by Andy Mormon, Suzanne's brother. That's going to happen up in Salida. I believe there's at least 300 volunteers at the moment. It's probably going to be a lot more than that. So they're all going to send on Salida and do their utmost. I mean, the brother's doing his duty. Hopefully it'll give him peace of mind, at least, even if they don't find anything. Hopefully it'll at least give him peace of mind that he's done his best to try and find his sister. There is a lot of kind of talk going on at the moment that because there's a GoFundMe set up that was set up by, I think it was Barry Morphew's nephew, who set up this GoFundMe. Let me just grab it. Actually, I've got it here. I've got it here somewhere. Here we go. Don't know if you're going to be able to see all that. Hopefully you can. But currently stands at $32,912, and there's been sort of some pressure by a lot of people, asking for this fundraiser to be handed over to Andy to obviously fund and help with the search that he's going to have going on next weekend. I mean, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. The trouble is, it's brought in a lot of sort of unnecessary attention to Suzanne's daughters because they're named, or one of them is named down as a beneficiary on that GoFundMe. So, there's a lot of people saying, look, you should be handing that money over to Andy to assist with the search. I don't really want to get in too political about this, but I don't know how you guys feel about it, whether that should be handed over. I mean, it was put together to fundraise to help find Suzanne, so some may argue that's where the money should be going, but on the other hand, Barry's obviously got his thing going on, I guess. He's obviously trying to support and look after his daughters. It's got to the crazy situation now where there are people on Facebook and social media that are kind of, everybody obviously wants Barry to turn up for this search, which he said he has to Lauren Schaff, Fox News. He said absolutely I'm going to be there. But there's now people on Facebook and social media that are kind of passively aggressive, saying that they want to see Barry there. They want to have a word with him. So yeah, Kelly, it's ridiculous. It's kind of got to a bit of a uneasy stage now because I mean I don't know what your thoughts are on Barry's guilt or innocence, but he is actually frightened to turn up for this search. I get the impression because he's worried that people are out for him, and he's obviously worried for his daughters that people are now bringing his daughters into the situation because of the GoFundMe and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. It's got a little bit awkward, but I don't know. And I'm sure nobody's seriously gonna do anything to Barry seriously, and I'm sure that he will be there. That's all I can say. I'm sure that he will. I'm sure that he will be there. But yeah, massive search going on. So that's going on next week. Yeah, it's really torn. There's Team Barry and there's not Team Barry at the moment. It's I always go by, the saying of obviously of innocent until proven guilty. I don't like to point fingers at people without solid evidence. Obviously, everything that's happened and been said is kind of pointing back to him, but for the small chance that he might be completely innocent, I I hate to accuse people and point fingers at people. So I think we just need to just maybe bear that in mind. So I've got quite a bit of spiel just to go through regarding Suzanne, just to bring you up to date. Obviously, Barry now has started to come out and talk. He's been talking to Lauren Schaff. He's done quite a long interview. I will tell you one thing, I'm a little bit annoyed that they don't just release this interview with Barry. It just seems to be Fox News or whatever. They just seem to be bringing it out in chunks. It's almost like it's a soap opera. They're bringing out bits, and I just find that really frustrating. I wish they would just release what they have. I mean, obviously they're doing it for views and ratings to bring people to their channel, but there could be a key bit of information in that interview that she did with Barry that really could, you know, just trigger something in someone's mind or memory. So I do find it a bit annoying that it's being done that way, but there you go. So okay, so let me just go through some things with you guys. I'm just going to bring up Suzanne's image while we're talking about this. So okay, so let me just put that there so I can see the chat. Okay, so three big. Chris, what do you think of the interview with female ex-worker? Yeah, I'm just going to come on to that actually. I'm just going to go through kind of most of the things that have happened just sort of over the last couple of weeks and interviews and just things that people have said. So it's just a couple of key questions that I would be asking at the moment. And the first one is exactly what time did Suzanne's friend receive that last text? Now I've heard it was around about 2:30 p.m. on the Saturday, and I just hope that sort of whoever received that friend just comes forward, and because I think she might be able to help piece a few things together. Now there have also been talk that there were some people that received friend suggestions, and even it's been mentioned that a couple of people received direct friend requests from Suzanne later on Saturday. Now, I don't know how much weight that information has. I don't know how the Facebook algorithm works, but it's almost been suggested that, somebody was using Suzanne's Facebook account in order to try and make it look like, obviously, it was Suzanne. But as with a lot of information in this case, it's a little bit clouded in kind of who said that, she said, he said kind of stuff. But I think we do know, you heard it too, Angelina. Yeah, it's I mean, if they were direct friend requests to somebody, that is huge because obviously that takes manual intervention. Somebody would have been using Suzanne's account, or somebody would have been logged into Suzanne's Facebook, and then obviously it does suggest that maybe somebody was trying to make out, obviously, that it was Suzanne. Now, of course, the other stuff that came out with the Daily Mail and what have you is this infamous infamous Holiday Inn, the Holiday Inn Express in Broomfield, which has either become a potential crime scene or it's just become a complete waste of time sideshow. But of course, there will be cameras at that hotel, and they're obviously gonna tell everything, aren't they? Because they're gonna show exactly when Barry arrived there, what times he may have left there and come back, and then ultimately when he left for good. But obviously, there's a lot of talk about what did Barry do in that hotel, and we'll go through that in a little bit. And the other thing that was mentioned that I haven't seen is that Barry mentioned that he went into Broomfield, the town, on the Saturday. Was he caught on camera? I haven't seen anything yet to say that he was caught on cameras anywhere, because that's part of what people have been saying, that Barry said he went into Broomfield. So, did he? That's part of his story, isn't it? So, that'll be interesting to see. So, just quickly going over, this is just notes I've taken. I'm just gonna kind of throw them out there a little bit, maybe a little bit jumbled up, but I'm sure you hopefully will know kind of what I'm talking about and can relate to what I'm talking about. Now, of course, one of the key bits of information was Mary Branson, who was the neighbour of the job site in East Salida. Now, she's the lady that heard the loud noise in the middle of the night on Mother's Day weekend. She said it had to have been loud to wake her up, as she is hard of hearing. It sounded like one of those machines that she had been hearing, and lasted about 30 minutes. And that was in the middle of the night on Saturday, May the 9th. So it's no wonder law enforcement went and searched that site. They dug up the concrete, didn't they? I mean, I can't think of any reason for that not being extremely suspicious. The fact that she heard machinery in the middle of the night on a job site that Barry worked at. Yeah, Anne Lane's put it very well there. Not to say guilty, but too many suspicious things around Barry without answers. You're absolutely right, there are. And that's kind of the way that it seems to go. Everything seems to lead back to Barry, and Barry not having a kind of foolproof answer for why it's happened. But I find that extremely suspicious, and like I say, it's no wonder law enforcement went there. They used all sorts of special machinery, of course. They started digging up the concrete. I mean, when I saw that, I my stomach sunk because they don't do that kind of stuff lightly. They obviously saw something underneath there. I was quite surprised when they didn't find anything. Obviously relieved at the same time, but I was quite surprised. Okay, now Suzanne's family have kind of come out as well, speaking behind the scenes with other YouTubers and other media. Now they have stated that Barry refused a polygraph and voice analysis test twice, I believe. And they've also said that Barry's truck's GPS doesn't match his story. However, Barry has stated that he's never been asked to do a polygraph. He said, "There is nothing that I am hiding. I have given 30 hours of testimony to the FBI and CBI. I've answered every question, every single question." So either somebody's lying there, or somebody has got confused, or somebody's hearing something secondhand and it's not correct. Now, there was an inconsistency apparently with Barry's timeline that he gave police. He said it was only because when I just didn't know the time that I did something, a mechanical thing to my bobcat, I was confused and I just found out my wife was missing. Obviously, that's raised suspicion with a lot of people that potentially something has happened involving his bobcat. If anyone doesn't know, it's like a kind of digger. So a lot of these quotes now I'm taking from the interview that Lauren Schaff had with Barry. If you haven't seen it, Lauren Schaff's actually now got her own YouTube channel, and she puts the videos up there for us people in Europe who can't get the links sometimes to Fox News. People that are in the UK, sometimes we can't open them unless you're on a VPN or something. So if you haven't watched them, or if you want to listen to them, they're on Lauren Schaff's YouTube channel. And I think it's quite important. I always find it extremely important to go straight to, rather than reading about an interview and picking out and reading quotes that people have picked out and that kind of thing. I always go straight to the source and listen for myself to what people are saying, because sometimes things can get misconstrued, and often you can get interviewers trying to put their little spin on what was said or how something was said. So I always find it, so important to listen to the actual words that have come out of somebody's mouth rather than going on what somebody may have reported that they've said, if you know what I mean. So regarding the day that Suzanne's bike was found, Barry said, and I quote, "My buddy was right there after that, and he said they completely destroyed the evidence, and he tried to stop them, but they wouldn't listen to him and said, this is not CSI. There's no evidence for the investigators to see because the sheriff's department completely obliterated it." He said the sheriff's department screwed this whole thing up from the beginning, and now they're trying to cover it up and blame it on me. Okay, so I'm going to put the question to you just to see how you guys feel. How do you feel about Barry kind of trying, or not trying, but you know, saying that look, the sheriff's cocked this up. They messed it up from the beginning, and now they're trying to put the blame on me. I mean, do you think that's fair for him to say that? Do you think you could potentially be using that as a tactic to deflect away from him? So Helen Rowley says smoke screens. Happy Thoughts says it's very interesting how Barry's story is so different to Andy Mormon's story. Very true, very conflicting kind of approaches to obviously what's happening. Not the Andy's out there. Well, saying Andy's out there boots on ground. I mean, Barry has said that he is out there as well, doing his own searches. But yeah, two very very different stories, absolutely. So JD says could be true, who knows? Kimberly deflecting, I believe, unfortunately. Precious Gale, has there been any new physical evidence? Not as far as I know. No, there's been no physical evidence. I mean, they had very little, haven't they? Apart from the bike, which a lot of people discount as just being staged there, and just the item that they found. I don't know what other physical evidence they've got, to be perfectly honest. Unless I'm being completely dumb. Of course, we still don't know what that item was. Some people say it might have been her phone. There are YouTubers out there that have rung her phone. They've rung her number. And it still rings, I think. I believe it still rings. And whether law enforcement have got it, I don't know. It's very odd. But that has been done. No, Nellie Bilal alibi's right. There's no physical evidence that's been shared with public. Of course, they could still be holding things back. We don't know. Okay, so yeah, so Barry's kind of saying, look, sheriffs have screwed this up from the start. Now they're trying to cover it up. They're trying to blame it on me. Barry also adds, this is the most devastating thing that has ever happened to me. But I've got to keep my faith and trust in God. And Suzanne trusted the Lord. And if one person got saved from this, she would think it was worth it. And we are just a godly, loving, caring family. And this thing is just a tragedy. So, of course, was it last week or I think it was last week? So the first of the workers, hired workers came out, or I should say ex-hired workers. So Jeff Puckett was the first one. We came out with this Daily Mail. Daily Mail came out with this exclusive of Jeff Puckett. It was somebody that Barry had hired to do a job over Mother's Day weekend, going into the following week. And I'll come to what Jeff said in a minute. I don't know why I've just got this other way around, but Barry says about Jeff Puckett, he says, listen, Jeff was in prison for 9 years. I said, listen, I need to do this job. I will pay you good money to come and help me. I gave him a job and an opportunity, and they all jumped on it. But it's interesting that Barry is immediately throwing shade on Jeff. Basically saying, look, he's not a credible person for you guys to be listening to. So again, some people will see that as deflection, that he's trying to throw shade on witnesses that are coming forward. So Barry paid for Jeff Puckett's room, this stay at this Holiday Inn Express in Broomfield, which was near this job that was happening over the weekend. And Barry paid for the room for Jeff to stay in. Jeff got there late on the Sunday, but he said that's why, and Barry had to leave on the Sunday. Jeff said that's why he had to leave, a family emergency on the Sunday night. Now, Jeff also then went on to say that when he walked into the room set aside for him, that Barry had paid for, it looked like Barry had spent some time inside as well at some point. He said it's like he wasn't there long, the bed wasn't slept in or laid in or nothing. And then he went on to add that there was a strong smell of chlorine. And then the next day he found a piece of mail in the trash addressed to Barry that was regarding property insurance. Now, of course, all week and what have you, there's been this kind of whole debate about, do they use chlorine? Do they not use chlorine? Does chlorine smell? Does the hotel really smell of chlorine? Was it that strong? Was it that bad? I know the hotel did come back and say that they use peroxide or hydrogen peroxide based cleaners. Is it hydrogen peroxide? Have I got that right? I have got it further down in my notes somewhere. And that was kind of backed up a little bit by Morgan as well, wasn't it? Who's now come out. She's done an interview. She can be named. She says she's not the mistress. I mean, people did hunt her down a while ago. I remember there was even YouTubers throwing her name out, which is absolutely insane. But she kind of backed up the smell of chlorine as well. I've just got some. There's somebody on Facebook kindly let me have some pictures that they've taken because they actually visited. I would imagine that Holiday Inn Express has been inundated with people phoning and turning up to see what the place smells like. So this is the Holiday Inn Express. Apparently it's surrounded by cameras. So there's going to be no way Barry will be able to lie about when he was there. Do you know what I mean? When he left there, when he may have popped out and gone back. It's all going to be on camera. I'd imagine there's cameras all over that place. So, yeah. But this is an image of the indoor pool. So like I say, I've heard people say that the whole place reeks of chlorine, and then I've heard people say no, it doesn't. So, your guess is as good as mine. So regarding the hotel, Barry has he stated to Lauren Sharp, I didn't do nothing wrong in the hotel. There's cameras all over that place. I did nothing wrong. Now, Barry did talk, he was asked about when, what he said or what happened when he got the news about Suzanne. So Barry stated, I rushed home, left all my tools at the hotel, called my workers and said, I've got a family emergency. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. Of course, there was talk because Jeff Puckett, this is some of the conflicting stories that are coming out. Jeff said there were no tools there, but then Morgan has since come out and said that there were tools left there in a crate at the hotel. They weren't the correct tools and they weren't the tools for the job they needed to do, but there were tools there. Barry also stated, I did not go to the pool and I did not get chlorine. I'm sure that they washed the rooms with that for the pandemic. I don't know. I smelled it too when I was in there. Now, Lauren Schaff, she stated that when she rang the hotel, that the pool was not open. due to the ongoing virus. But then I've heard other people have rung the hotel. This is how crazy it is. I've heard other people ring the hotel and they've said that the pool is open and would have been open on that weekend. So again, I don't know what you can make of that. And yeah, the hotel did confirm that they use peroxide multi-purpose based cleaners. They don't use what's the word I'm looking for? Chlorine based cleaners. So, Jeff said and Morgan said that there were towels on the floor, soaked towels, and the room stunk of chlorine. So I'll put it to you, question to you. Do you think there's anything suspicious regarding the chlorine smell at the hotel? The fact that Barry would have took a shower there, the towels were very wet, the room stunk of chlorine. Of course, we know from Andy Mormon that the house smelt of chlorine. Barry's house also smelled of bleach, strongly of bleach, according to the initial investigators. That's what Andy Mormon heard. So do you think there's anything suspicious about this hotel, or do you think it's just a story about nothing? I mean, Jeff almost, alluded to the fact that maybe it was an alibi. Maybe Barry was trying to set up an alibi for him being there and what have you. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Nellie's race. The polygraphs do not measure truthfulness. They measure anxiety, heart rate, and sweat. I mean, the key thing is they're not admissible in court. So, you're well within your rights to say, no, I don't want to take one. So JD says if his own house smelled of bleach too, well, that is suspicious. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. This didn't really strike me as majorly suspicious, but obviously when it is mentioned that his house, it's never good, is it, when somebody disappears from a house and then all of a sudden the partner decides to give it a nice clean over with a lot of bleach and stuff. That's never a great sign, right? I think logic and experience will tell us that. So yeah, that was concerning, definitely concerning. So Anne Lane says Barry chose a chlorine-smelling hotel, so him adding chlorine wouldn't look suspicious. That's a good point. That's a good point. Glowing Ember says it seems strange to me that Barry would have Jeff take over his room. I think he'd get his own room. Was he trying to set him up somehow? Exactly. There's two sides to that, isn't it? One, you would think if he's going to do anything nefarious, he ain't going to be wanting to share in the room with anybody because he ain't going to want them finding out what he's up to. But then on the other hand, could he be doing it knowing that it could potentially implicate somebody else? And he's not the only person that uses that room. So that's a really good point. So Raging Nightwolf says, if we look at the case, the only factual evidence we have is that she is missing and a bike and an item of hers was found. Everything else is based on rumour. Kind of is. Certainly a lot of it is still speculation and rumour for certain. Okay, so as I was saying, Andy Mormon, Suzanne's brother, said that from what he understood second hand, there was an overwhelming smell of bleach in the home, which was relayed by initial investigators. Of course, we do know that law enforcement have been to that house twice, and certainly for them to get a second search warrant, they would have had to have had probable cause to be able to get that second search warrant. So that is certainly a worrying point. Absolutely. What are they looking for in that house, and what have they found in that house? Of course, we don't know any of that yet. And he also said they did ask them why they couldn't find a single cooler. Initially, that confused me a little bit, but then, of course, he was a hunter and what have you, and obviously an outdoorsman, and most people like that have big cool boxes to carry, you know, game and kill and stuff like that. So the fact that they couldn't find a single cooler in the house certainly does seem suspicious under those circumstances. It's difficult to know what else to think about that really without going into massive speculation. So when Barry was asked, it was put on the spot by Lauren Shaft, asked to be put on the record. She said, if people think you did it, what would you tell them? And Barry stated, absolutely not. I love my wife. I would never hurt my wife. She is the light of my and my daughter's lives. So that was his response to anybody who's still pointing the finger at him. Now, there was part of the interview I found really interesting because the whole bike story seemed to kind of just originate out of somewhere, didn't it? Out of nowhere almost. And I was trying to get my head around how that bike story came about. But I think I've kind of pieced it together from what Barry said and yeah, from what Barry said basically. So Barry said that the neighbour who checked the house, so this was the neighbour to Suzanne's house, and she was asked to go over there by the daughters, wasn't she? Because they couldn't get hold of Suzanne. So this is what the neighbour said to Barry, according to Barry. She said, Barry, Suzanne is not at the house. Her car is here, but her bike is missing. He said, or Barry said, that doesn't sound good because she's not answering me either. And he said, I'm coming home right now. And that was at 5 p.m. on Sunday evening. Now, I thought about this, and it's going to be hard for him to lie about his. If he had his phone with him on that Sunday, it's going to be quite difficult, isn't it, for him to lie about where he was. Because his phone, Barry's phone, is going to tell them a lot, I think, about his whereabouts on that Sunday. Unless he had another phone. He said he was 160 miles away in Broomfield, and his phone is going to tell them. His phone's going to tell them a lot, in my opinion. There's a lot of technical data regarding his vehicle, his phone, that kind of stuff, which we don't know about yet. That we haven't heard any of that, because of course they can get so much. Like in Letitia Stout case, they got so much from her vehicle's vehicle information. The electronic unit from the vehicle told them exactly where that vehicle was, and they also tied that up to where her phone was, so they kind of knew exactly where she was at a particular time. I think they probably have got all that information on Barry as well. I would think. I think that's going to be a key part of their investigation, most definitely. So Barry also went on to say, he said, Suzanne went on a bike ride every day. She was an avid biker. If she did not bike around the subdivision, she would bike on trails. I don't remember how the conversation went, but I probably said something like, is her bike there? Because her car was there and she's gone. I rushed home, left all my tools at the hotel, called my workers and said, I've got a family emergency. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. And then went directly to the site where the bike was. So I'll be interested to know who told Barry where Suzanne's bike was found and when he was told that. We don't know exactly when they found her bike, do we? It was later on the day, wasn't it? It's later on the Sunday. Yeah, well said, Fireflies. Please be respectful of the family. Please refrain from accusing her daughter of being involved. That's extremely inappropriate. I mean, that's ridiculous. Anyone making ridiculous comments like that, then you're just going to be timed out and ultimately kicked out. So those poor girls need to be not put in the limelight in any way. They have done absolutely nothing to deserve any of this. So I don't think they should even be brought up. There's no reason for Suzanne's daughters to even enter the conversation, to be perfectly honest. Now, apparently there's no flyers or posters at the sheriff's office. Barry has said, I know for a fact the sheriffs are embarrassed in how they handled the investigation and they just want to crawl under a rock about it. So Barry's being quite vocal about how he feels about law enforcement and the sheriff's office. He thinks they've cocked it up. He thinks they've ballsed it up. They're trying to put the blame on him and they're trying to hide under a rock. Of course, we don't know what they're doing. We don't know exactly what they're doing in the background. Barry said he's never stopped searching, and he said that he has been searching trails. Now, apparently, he has a let's bring this up here. He's got a bike. He's got like a dirt bike, a little kind of motorbike thing, and he said that he has been searching trails after trails on his dirt bike for his wife. He says, I'm in the dark here. I don't know what they're investigating, who they're investigating. I know they're investigating me because they've destroyed my family and my life. So Lauren kind of put him on the spot a little bit in her last bit of the interview that I heard. She said, Barry, I hope to talk with you and I hope to see you when I come down for the search. Of course, that's happening next weekend. And I hope to do the on-camera interview with you there at the vigil. They're having a vigil as well. The vigil is September 25th for your wife. And Barry says, okay. And Lauren says, will you be there? And Barry says, absolutely. So, okay, so I'm going to ask you guys, how many of you think Barry is going to be there for the search with Suzanne's brother and hundreds of volunteers next weekend in Salida? How many of you think Barry's gonna be there? Or just say yes or no. If you think he's going to be there, put yes. If you don't think he's going to be there, put no. I'll be interested to know. I mean, surely he's got to. Yes, I don't. Yes, he'll be there. No. He hesitated before he said absolutely. He did actually. Yeah, you're right. BJ Church. It was a little bit of a hesitant. Helen Rose, if he isn't, it won't look good. No, it won't. I don't think he should be there. I don't think it's realistic or safe in circumstances. Well, that's a good point. As I was talking earlier, there's almost people not threatening him, but certainly saying, "Look, I really want to have a word with you if you're there." One of them actually is that John. Oh, is it John Schmitz? The guy who had an altercation with him, used to work with him, and had an altercation years ago. He's kind of said, "I want to see Barry there. I want to be there, and I want to see Barry." Barry will not be there guaranteed. Okay, so I don't know what these people are thinking. JD says, I think he will, or he will be judged for not being there. Yeah, he will. If he's not, yeah, if he's not there, he's going to be. I mean, I think he's, I think he's got to assume it. He's going to be. Nobody's going to. May have a few unhappy people trying to have a word with him, but I don't think he needs to worry too much for his safety. I know the sheriff's office and everything have offered help as well. Now they're going to help get involved because there was talk that they weren't doing anything. So that's good to see that they've stepped up to the plate. But yeah, so that's going to be interesting, guys. That's next weekend. Next weekend, 24th. What are we today? 13th. That's Sunday. So Sunday 12th. So it's a week after, actually. Week after next. And then there's a vigil, 25th. So, of course, the other interview we had was Morgan Gentile. Oh, hi, Darzen. Thank you for joining. Welcome to Phoenix Warrior. You're now a Phoenix, official green Phoenix Warrior. Yeah, there is a join button on the channel if anyone wants to. It's a little bit of support for the channel, and you do get some. We've got some like fun emojis and stuff on there. Hopefully, you can find them. If anyone's got any problems finding it, if you're a member and you have problems finding those emojis, please let me know. But we've got some funny ones on there, and I can add to those all the time. But no, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so Morgan Gentile was the mistress that wasn't a mistress. She's the woman that everyone was going after, that everybody was throwing her name out there recklessly. That's something I really don't agree with. I think that was ridiculous that people had done that. And she's actually said that this case has broken up her family, it's forced her to relocate, and it's keeping her from finding a job. She said, I'm the other woman, even though I'm not the other woman. I just happen to be a woman. And Lauren Shaft asked her if she's ever had a sexual relationship with Barry, and she said, absolutely not. And Barry has said, everybody is out there saying, oh, he's got a girlfriend and he is having affairs. Where is it? There's nobody. There's never been another love in my life since 1988. So Barry's strongly stating there's never been anybody. So Morgan sort of backed up what Jeff Puckett had said. She said that, when she was at the hotel, she said, we opened the door, and I'm quoting her, we opened the door, and I mean like the chlorine hit you, and you're like, my eyes started watering and burning, and like the towels were super wet on the floor, and it looked like he had made the bed before he left. But it wasn't made by a hotel clerk. Barry had started working that beach job. Now, the beach job is the job in East Salida, okay? That's the job where they, dug up the concrete. I think they call it a beach job because of the riverfront, and they have like sand down at the end of their plot, I suppose, where the river is. And Saturday, when he had picked me up, he asked me to clean it up and rake it out. So we were going to bring it up to levels. So that way it was a beach sand and not muck. And then she said that Barry was acting really weird about it. And she was like, Barry, what's up? He seemed like, I don't know, stressed. He definitely seemed weird on Saturday. So that's what Morgan's saying. These are the ex-employees. He's now fired them. Morgan added that she was planning on working all day that day, but we only worked till 11. He said that he had to go make the wife happy, do some hiking or biking, and I found out later that day that he was in town all day. Morgan said that she'd heard Barry was shopping. So how do you guys feel about that part of the story where he said that, Saturday so they finished work at that job site in East Salida at 11 a.m. He then said that he was going to go into town to go shopping. The only thing I think about that is that puts him possibly back at the home, because in that time, obviously from 11 till he could have been back at the house by 2:30, right? And that's when we know that Suzanne's phone she had a last communication with a friend, was at 2:30 on Saturday. Now that was the only part that interested me. It kind of put that time frame there where he could have potentially been back at home. Right, let me just finish up where I was. So Morgan said that she heard Barry was shopping that day. She said there were plans to head to Broomfield. Morgan said that we were originally supposed to go out there the end of April, and original plans for that job included only her and Barry. But then she said the last minute he changed everything. In fact, he called me that Sunday, Mother's Day, and was like really frantic, like really didn't sound like himself. Like I hung up the phone and thought he'd just had the worst night of his life. So that was on the Sunday that they had that conversation. So you've got to think, haven't you? How much of these witness statements do you take as accurate? How much do you take is 100% truth? And if you consider that potentially it's not true, you've got to think potentially, well, why are they not telling the truth? So Barry then asked her to get a crew together and drive to Broomfield. She picked up Jeff Puckett and headed that way to fix a retaining wall. Somewhere here I have. So that's Jeff and Morgan. So Morgan then added, Barry said that he had been up there all day getting the job ready for us. The work that I saw he did up there wouldn't have taken him more than 30 minutes. So I was like, what did you do up there? This is on the Sunday. Barry said that he was leaving, there was a family emergency. Barry had left some tools behind in a hotel cart, although it wasn't the right equipment. So that's where Jeff's story and Morgan's story conflicted, because Jeff said that he didn't leave any tools, and Morgan said that he did, although it was limited and it wasn't the tools that they needed. It looked like Barry had emptied out his truck, all kinds of stuff that we didn't need to do a retaining wall with, so they waited for further instruction. Barry then called Morgan crying on Monday morning, saying Suzanne has gone, a mountain lion has got her. We're heading up the mountain, we're going to go find what we can, we're going to go find her, wait till 11 o'clock to get the brick. The job was still on, but materials never arrived to the work site, so Morgan and Jeff then packed up and went back to Salida on Tuesday. Now, she did add that when they were back in Salida, she was approached by two men a friend of Barry's and one of his family members who told her, "We would give you your paycheck, but we don't want it to look like hush hush money." And they're like, "You have rights, but you don't have to give CBI your phone." Morgan gave 5 interviews with law enforcement. She gave up her phone, but she did decline a polygraph. Morgan did. Days later, she heard from Barry again through text, and I think they were fired. But then Barry says about Morgan, "She's a meth head too, just like Jeff. She's mad at me because I fired her and then don't let her work for me anymore. She's mad, so they're not going to say anything good about me." And Morgan says she feels that if he was innocent, he would have talked to me. I've worked with him every day for a long time, and she actually said, "I'm scared of Barry. I know, I don't want to see him ever again." Barry maintains he's innocent, 100% innocent, and he says social media and the news media have made it seem like he is a bad guy. So what are your thoughts, guys? How do you feel after hearing all the interviews, hearing the interviews from the ex-employees and hearing Barry's interview? How do you feel about this whole story? It's becoming bizarrer every time more information comes out. Yeah, so April said, "I believe they have learned from other cases over the last few years, and I believe that is why we have close to nothing confirmed in this case, because it would jeopardize the case." I think you're absolutely right. I think they have learned a lot from previous cases. April says it's frustrating. Brooke is, "I found it a bit odd." Yeah, Marvinette, Barry doesn't have a very good word for anyone. He doesn't. He's not been too impressed with these two witnesses. And I've heard other people say that about these witnesses as well. There's people attacking the kind of integrity of these witnesses. Um, saying their statements shouldn't be so just saying it's ridiculous what they've said. But I don't know. I really don't know. That's a good point, Glowing Ember. So I'm curious of how Morgan was normally paid. The final pay meetup sounded very strange. It did. What do you guys think about that? About being met by a member of Barry's family and a friend saying, "We would pay you, but we don't want people to think this is hush hush money." I mean, that's a little bit of a strange circumstance, right? It's a bit of a strange meetup, isn't it? Final pay meetup. Does seem very odd. How many think something? How many think that the search that's going to happen that Andy Morman's putting on? How many believe that something may be found? I mean, how many are confident or hopeful that something is going to be found? I believe that they're taking everything in the air, water, everything. They're going to do like a complete grid map search. I mean, it's great they got hundreds of people, obviously, because law enforcement can't put anything like that together that big. Actually, I've got the latest. Where was it from the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office? So this was the press release they put out. This is on September 10th. Um, so it says Andrew Mormon, brother of Suzanne, is organising an independent search in the area of Suzanne's disappearance. This effort will begin on September 24th. So what day is that, guys? What are we today? 13th, and it's Sunday, so Sunday 20th. So it's going to be Thursday, week Thursday, and continue for the next several days. Andrew will be leading several hundred volunteer searchers from various towns and states in his effort to find his sister. The Chaffee County Sheriff's Office and the CBI want to support this effort. Although our team is unable to coordinate and lead this effort due to liability issues, we want to support this effort in several different ways. We certainly appreciate this huge undertaking and want to offer support to facilitate their efforts. We will be staffing our command post with liaison personnel to assist Mormon search members. Our SAR units will be on hand to assist with Mormon search team accountability and other search team coordination issues. Our crime scene team will be available to document and collect any evidence if found. We will have both Chaffee County and CBI case agents on hand in this endeavour as well. As with any major undertaking, it takes many different resources to complete a task, and we once again appreciate the Mormon search effort and its many volunteers. Yes, I mean, hats off to Andy and hats off to everybody who's assisting with that. I mean, imagine they're going to be over that area, around her house where the bike was found, the junction of the highway and the county road just off where her bike was found, um, where the item was found, which we don't know exactly where that is yet, but I'm sure they're going to be over that, like bees over honey, right? Looking for anything that they may have missed. Okay, thanks, Kim. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I mean, let's hope and pray they find something, if not before, right? It's going to be interesting with that many people searching there, and it's a massive area. I know, Beezer Mummy, you've been there, haven't you? You've been to that area, and I guess it gave you a more perspective of just how huge and remote that area is, right? Just huge forests and vast. Yeah, very much perspective. I hope the weather's good, obviously, for them. That's obviously a key thing. You want a nice day, you want a nice clear day. Don't want it pouring with rain. You want nice weather, good visibility. Yeah, she's got to be somewhere, right? She can't just disappear off the face of the earth. She's somewhere, isn't she? How many here people believe the possibility of an abduction, that somebody may have, she did go on a bike ride, somebody just pulled up, grabbed her and went. How many people believe in that possible scenario? I'm not going to entertain the cat scenario because I really don't think that's got any legs. Yeah, it's possible. No, some people don't. Some people are speculating, did Parry possibly upset the wrong kind of people? You know, um, it's always a possibility. Like we've said before, though, everything for me goes back to the house because we understand that's where she was when her phone last. She last spoke to someone on the phone or texted someone. The fact that law enforcement have twice been in that house, I mean, that seems the real focal point in it, of the whole investigation. Landscaping has sketchy people around here. Yeah, I know a few people have mentioned, there could have been sketchy people in the area because of where it was. The bike, I can't make my mind up on whether that's got any credibility to it. It does seem very kind of staged to me. Um, but the fact that she was an avid biker and what have you, but of course someone would have had to have just grabbed her, wouldn't they, off the road if that was the case. Literally grabbed her off a bike, chucked the bike down the embankment and off. And then you have to ask, would she have had her phone with her? Where was her phone? Why is her phone still ringing? Guys, there's people I've heard on YouTube that have said they've rung the phone and it still rings. And that threw me off a little bit. Just making sure there's no. Right. Okay, guys, I think I've gone through pretty much everything I wanted to go through. Let's just hope that we hear something soon. Both Cassandra's story and Suzanne's, of course. Two women missing. Two women that have just seemingly disappeared. How does this happen, guys? How do people just disappear like this? It's scary that this can happen. I mean, Suzanne's been now, what, over 4 months? Cassandra's been a lot less. That did throw me off a little bit tonight that I've heard that the ex-boyfriend is back wandering around as if nothing's wrong. I find that strange. I'll try and find out, see if he's been interrogated and questioned. But yeah, anyone who's watching now, or anyone who may watch later, if you know anything regarding these cases, then please obviously get in touch with law enforcement. I'll be putting the numbers underneath the video once we're done. If you're involved in the case, or if you're a family member or anything and you want to share anything, then our email is always underneath the video. If you want to do that, then you're more than welcome. But yeah, that's it, guys. Yeah, please hit that thumbs up if you wouldn't mind on your way out. That would be cool. Thanks to the new member. I can't remember his exact name. Was it Denzar or something? Something like that. Thank you for joining. Thanks to the Firefly, True Helper, and Kimberly for looking after you guys. You're always such a great bunch in here. It's always a pleasure to have you all in. Thanks to anyone new. Thanks to anyone new to the channel. Hope you found it interesting. Hope you please subscribe and come back if you found it interesting. But yeah, Darzen, I think was that was his name. But yeah, let's just keep an eye on it, guys. Obviously, if I hear anything significant, I'll let you know. Yeah, Darzen, I got it right. Yeah, I'll obviously let you guys know. So let's just keep hoping and praying, guys, that we hear something positive. That's all we can do, isn't it? But take care, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'm sure that I will speak to all of you again soon. Thanks very much.